Hey everyone, it's Charlie Morgan here and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking to you about discipline. Now, a different side of discipline that you've probably never heard about before, and I'm going to help you see discipline in a completely different way. And if you don't see it in this way, then what's going to happen is you're going to really find yourself through this cycle where basically where you're extremely disciplined for a short period of time and then you're burned out for like a remaining period of time. Now, the first thing to understand about discipline is that too much of it is actually bad for you, right? Now, that might sound a bit counterintuitive because you've probably been told that work and discipline and hustle are the secrets to success. However, we all know the old cliche, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And cliches are usually rooted in truth, which is why they're cliches, right? With a few exceptions. If you critically think about some of them, they don't make any sense. However, you need to know how to stop. Okay, it's a really important skill to have in managing yourself and your energy and your stress levels. Now, first of all, let's talk briefly about burnout. I won't keep this video too long, but burnout is a manifestation of you working too hard. It happens when your cortisol levels in your body and your stress hormones and your noradrenaline and adrenaline levels basically increase gradually over time as you do stressful activities. Now, we observe burnout can happen at any time throughout your life, especially if you're going through a really difficult, tough time personally, and then work is also difficult. You'll find that you just can't perform. The reason this happens and the reason you get tired and anxious and nervous and can't sleep properly and get delirious is because you've got just too much stress, right? Your stress hormones are just too high. And that produces and manifests itself into lazy behavior. Now, I used to get really angry at myself for burning out. And I used to take extreme measures to get really pissed off at myself. I'd be like, oh, you're not disciplined, or you're weak, or you can't keep doing the work. This is your weak character coming out. I used to tell myself after 2 months of basically beating myself with 12-hour days for 6 days a week. And I soon realized that I'm a biological entity and biological entities need to rest, right? And I don't just mean rest in the form of sleep and good diet and stuff, because I was doing all that, but I mean in the regards that as you are when your discipline is containing stress, right? And every time something comes up that you say no to, which is just basically discipline, it's saying no to shit that doesn't contribute towards your goal and doing the things that do, a little bit of stress is added to your life, just a little bit, right? And what that means is that over a long enough period of time with enough discipline and working through enough problems and solving enough stressful situations and critically thinking for a long period of time and doing mundane tasks that you don't really enjoy doing, what happens is this all just builds and builds and builds and builds to a threshold. Now, everyone has a different burnout threshold. Different people can handle different levels of stress. And generally speaking, the more you burn out, the more stress and the higher your threshold will actually be. So this is interesting, the more you burn yourself out, the longer you have to go before you actually get to the point where you can't work anymore. But that's not really a good strategy for dealing with burnout, because I've been trying that for the last 4 years. And it's not good. You just end up in this loop of discipline where you are hyper disciplined and then you fall off and then you're lazy as fuck, and then you're hyper disciplined and then you lose. So I actually dealt with this with a therapist and I explained the situation and he explained it really well. He said that when you're going through these extreme periods of discipline, and when you're sort of working through all of this stress, it's kind of like you're sat in a room and in that room in the corner is a sleeping lion, right? And he said, just bear with me with the metaphor here because it will make sense, I promise. And he was like, just imagine that you're sat in a room whilst you're being extremely disciplined, and as you're doing that, there's a lion in the corner of the room and it's sleeping. Now, if you're in a room with a lion, even if it's asleep, you're gonna get pretty stressed. And depending upon how long you want to stay in the room for, your stress levels will increase over and over and over. The more you stay in the room, the longer you're gonna think, shit, this thing's gonna wake up and kill me, shit, this thing's gonna wake up and kill me, shit, this thing. And your stress levels will rise. Now, that's the equivalent to holding it all together and being extremely disciplined for periods of time. You'll have a threshold for how long you can sit in that room, for how much stress you can handle before you want to get out. And your body and your mind, the equivalent of that is when you're doing so much work and eventually you have to get out. It doesn't give you a choice. Your body will move and your mind will stop you from doing things and you won't even have any control over the actions. Now, I've taken work to extremes before where I have worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for months on end. And I've got to the point where I physically and mentally cannot work anymore, but I continue to do so. Do not do that. It's extremely unhealthy. And It's one of the worst and most horrible experiences I've ever put myself through, to be honest, because like your body will tell you when to stop. Now, the key is to know when to stop, because your mind will play tricks on you. So if you wake up one morning, you feel a little tired, you feel a little anxious about work, that does not mean you're burned out. That's probably your character talking to you saying, oh yeah, we're just not going to do this today and we're going to pretend it's burnout. Because your brain's very good, it knows you very well because it is you, right? And so it will feed you these stories that prevent you from working, and burnout might be one of them. It's like, oh, we're just a bit burned out, so let's take the day off. However, like basically, if you haven't been working for like months on end for really long periods of time, you're not burned out. You might think you are, but you're not, right? So just be careful of that. So the fix to this is to have the discipline to be undisciplined, right? And it's basically like people think that like in life we have to be super disciplined or super chilled out, right? The secret is to put the two together. So you need to have the discipline to work, but you also need to have the discipline to not work. And it's and that might sound really straightforward, but it's a very hard balance to achieve, where like you're getting great results in business, you're working really hard, you're in the zone, you're focused, but then you stop. Now, it's very hard to force yourself to stop and go and relax. However, it must be done, because if you don't learn how to do it, then you're going to be screwed. So you kind of just need to have the ability to have the discipline to be undisciplined. So you want to sort of observe yourself in the third person like you're a video game character, and you're telling that character what to do and when, but you'll see like your character over time, like as you put it through stressful activities, like its mana and its stamina and its health and like, you know, all these things will start decreasing, and then your character will go and have to rest, and then maybe you have to go and put it to sleep or whatever. Now that's like, or maybe you have to just sort of send it on holiday or make it go and relax or something. So like realistic video games that embody like the human condition, you'll notice this, that like you put them through this stress and then they have to relax. So like a big boss fight, and then afterwards you have to go and get your gear, and then maybe they have to go and sit by the fire and then sleep and then spend a couple of days just chilling out. Like that's what I'm trying to explain here. You can't just go and defeat boss after boss after boss after boss in business and in work without going and chilling out afterwards. So I just wanted to sort of record this video because a lot of people are stuck in the loop of toxic discipline, which is really the result of like Gary Vaynerchuk just telling you you've got to work and eat shit food all day, and it's just not true. It's really unhealthy, and I would really not recommend you do that. So that's everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and just remember to fucking relax. You know, if you feel like you're at the point where you can't work anymore, your body's exhausted, your mind's tired, you get anxious about things you'd never get anxious about. Like I've pushed myself to the point before where I've literally got delirious and I've got panic attacks, and like I feel physically I've had this before where like I actually feel nauseous. And like I remember when one day this is a few years ago, I was eating my breakfast and I was like gagging as I was eating it because I felt that sick in the morning. But then I forced myself to go to work regardless, and I wasn't ill physically. I was, but like I just basically worked myself way too hard, and it was horrible, and I put myself through it because I was like, no, this is just a weak character. And that's when you take discipline too far. You have to listen to the body and the biological signs that tell you that you have to stop, and you have to abide by them, because if you don't, you'll end up in hospital. And that's not even a joke. Like there are people before who have literally worked themselves to death, because stress hormones are no joke, and you want to learn how to manage them. And the best way to manage them is to have to produce them, but then also to know how to not produce them and engage in activities that make you relax. Okay, so that's everything from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Do not forget to like and comment and subscribe. And also, if you want to learn more about how we help agency owners get clients, there will be 2 links in the description. You can check them both out. Talk soon.